Hello everyone and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is episode 27 and this is a series where we just kind of touch base upon various mythological creatures, beast being and the like from mythologies pulled worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so if I butcher a pronunciation for any of these names that I say, I do apologize in advance. I really do try, but I know I am flawed and can make mistakes. So with that said, today we're going to go over to Japanese folklore and we're going to be talking about the Kappa. The Kappa. And the Kappa, well, the name kind of loosely translates to river child. And this is an amphibious creature that goes into a category of Japanese supernatural entities and spirits called yokai. And so this particular spirit, creature, entity has a little range of descriptions. Kappas have been described as having green skin. They're humanoid or human-like in appearance with webbed fingers, toes, feet or hands, and typically have a carapace, so essentially a turtle shell kind of upon their back. Now, there also can be described as having a fishy odor. Again, they live in the water, they are aquatic, and having some kind of slimy skin. If you do touch their skin, they also have an affinity for cucumbers. I don't exactly know why, but that is their favorite food source, and they absolutely love sumo wrestling. Go figure. Now, kappas live in rivers and ponds in and around Japan. They're supposed to be clumsy upon the land, and due to a difference of anatomy between them and humans, they are able to pass gas 3 times more than an average man. They're also stronger than the average man, even though they are smaller in height and stature, but they can easily overpower a human. Now, with that said, which I recently learned, I didn't know this was actually one of their descriptions, but one of my favorite new descriptions of the Kappa is the fact that their arms can be described as being connected to each other inside the shell. So if you can imagine that, try to put your thinking caps on, but inside the shell, the arms are connected, and so they can pull their arms one way or the other through the shell, which we will get back to in a moment. So keep that in mind, but I think that is the most interesting and fascinating description of a mythological creature to date. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, they can range from being a nicer spirit and actually one that brings fortune to people, but more often than not, they're described as a trickster entity. And even more worrisome, they can be malevolent at times and having some evil deeds that range from drowning people because they are adept swimmers and can easily overpower a person. They will lure humans into the water and then grapple them underwater, wrestle them down until they drown. They're also known for, I guess the politest way to put it, is infringing on the Me Too movement and kidnapping children. They can also consume human flesh. So the malevolent side of the Kappa can be very terrifying or threatening to people. So the question is, if you have this water spirit, this amphibious creature that is extremely strong and can overpower a person, what do you do to avoid it, get away with it, trick it? So there are 2 different main ways. Now, the one that is used most often when I hear stories about the Kappa, as well as even the modern fantasy books and stories that utilize them as well, like to go to version 1. And version 1 is they have a dish on top of their head. Sometimes the dish is described as having a metal cap to protect it, and here's why. Kappas are extremely polite creatures and have a stringent way of doing things in order to keep up their etiquette, essentially. So if you as a person approach a Kappa and bow extremely low, they in turn will reciprocate that action and bow really low. What happens at that point is the water that is in their dish upon their head sloshes out, and as long as there's no water in their dish, they're frozen in place. So essentially they're stuck in a deep bow. At this point, the Kappa will probably start offering things to try to get the other person or human to be nice to them enough to put water back in their head so they can then slink off back into the water. Now, obviously, depending on the human, they may not do that, but that's when the Kappa is going to start offering you some very enticing options. Now, with that said, the other main way to overpower a Kappa, which goes back to the sliding arm ideas, is these arms do detach. Yes, they detach from the body easily and can reattach. So the other way is if you want to get even closer to the Kappa and take away his arms, all of a sudden the Kappa is going to start offering you again all these nice things, especially one of their things they do offer is knowledge, and knowledge is power in many regards, so that's a beautiful thing. And for tales where you have heroes and trying to do adventures and needing information, how else would you gain said information outside of tricking a Kappa to either bow or take away their limbs temporarily? Strange, but true. Now, if you have any questions about this or anything else, post them in the comments below or message me on any of my social media platforms. And until next time, Skål.